Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of This Month in LabVIEW. I have with me my fearless LabVIEW compatriots and conspirators. Technically, I think we are conspirators who are bringing this new show to you. First, we have Steve Watts. Steve, wave.
Wait, so you know
Next,
who I
we
am.
have, yeah, and most people should know who you are by now. There may be two or three people watching who don't know who you are. Sam Taggart, wave your hand as well.
Hey,
Wonderful. We're going to all have a moment to introduce ourselves, but first, let's talk a little bit about what is this thing called This Month in LabVIEW. Sam and Steve and I have been talking about this for a while. One of the things I noticed in a coffee chat that several of us meet regularly is how well Sam and Steve riff. And it was probably a year ago when I was thinking, yeah, we should have the Sam and Steve show and talk about all things LabVIEW. And we were all excited, but really, Steve, it was you that actually got things going to the point where we are today. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have a variety of topics. We will always be bringing you the latest news of the month, since this is technically called This Month in LabVIEW. We'll bring you the monthly news from NI, from the community. We'll have some tech talk, kind of breaking it into segments. We're going to want to hear from you guys directly. We'll talk more about that. Generally speaking, we're just going to keep this light, unedited, quick, and fun. So on that note, I'm going to turn it over to the professor of pragmatism, Mr. Steve Watts. Please introduce yourself in case people don't know who you are.
Hello, I'm generally a LabVIEW troublemaker, and I've been making trouble in LabVIEW for probably over 20 years. So you might know me by a book that I wrote, or you might know me by GDevCon, you might know me by weird presentations, you might know me by random ramblings of LabVIEW design, or any other things. You might know me from drinking with me down the pub. I don't.
So I have a comment on people that know you by your presentations, because if anyone has not seen a Steve Watts presentation, you have to see it. And when you're enjoying a Steve Watts presentation, it looks kind of free form, but I guarantee you there's a lot of work that goes into it. And I was planning NI Week helping plan NI Week one year, and we had our community track, and I had Steve on the agenda, and I was like, who on earth can I put in a room next to Steve? Because that would be horrible, because nobody's going to show up to anybody else if they're going against Steve. So I put myself and Chad Rui going up against Steve. And when Chad and I are walking to our room and I'm seeing this huge flow of people in that direction, and then they all went into Steve's room to hear Steve's amazing ramblings. Chad and I had a few people, but anyhow, I just Steve, you're a fixture, and I hope everybody gets to know you through not only this show, but through our various events. So Steve, why do you want to start this? What were you thinking?
I think there should be a central news point, independent central news point for all things LabVIEW ecosystem. I think we rely on NI to give us our news, and we rely on the different events to do discussions, but it's not really talking topically about subjects, and that's what I want. I want some topical sort of feedback from the ecosystem back to NI and vice versa, so that we can actually be a voice. I think that's probably my Machiavellian reason is that I feel that we should have a centralized voice.
Well, I really appreciate the centralized voice, because when I had various roles at NI, and we had the CLA summit, and we have these amazing DevCon events. And one of the things I noticed is that when you look at the participation, it's probably at least 3/4 partners and consultants. And a lot of members in our community, they work in automotive, they work in aerospace defense, they work in space flight, and they don't always have the opportunity to travel to the events and travel to NI Week in order to get to know the broader community. So I'm really hoping that this is going to be a great vehicle of outreach into a lot of our friends who don't have that opportunity to come to the events, and they want to be up to date on the latest things that are happening in the community. So that's I think our Machiavellian desires here align very, very well. So we have another conspirator here who tends to be very conspiratorial from time to time. Actually, I actually would refer to Sam as the architect of adventure. If you haven't met Sam yet, Sam has more energy than I ever had, or most of us have. Sam is also very ingenious, coming up with new ideas. Well, Steve comes up with new ideas. So Sam was brave to start GDevCon in NA. And by the way, this is the best mug ever. It will keep my Diet Coke cold for 24 hours. Thank you, Sam. And then Sam also launched, he's got the LabVIEW experiment, and he launched a brand new unconference in December, and we hope to do a few more of those this year as well. So Sam, say a few words about who you are, why you're here, what you love about this new show we're starting.
Yeah, conspirator implies some level of secrecy. I don't really keep many secrets. I tend to put myself out there quite a bit, which is both good and bad. I tend to be somewhat opinionated, so I'm trying to soften my opinionated nature a little bit lately. Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of things going. Podcast, blog, GDevCon, the LabVIEW Consultant Summit, I think was a great thing. I really like in-person events. That is probably as close as you're going to get to an in-person event with an online event. So there was definitely, it had that feel to it. Getting together with people and talking, and yeah, that's what I'm about. I really like the collaborative nature of the community. And I'm really just here because I enjoy talking to Steve, and we do that all the time anyway. And when you suggested we have our own podcast, I was like, let's just record what we normally talk about. So, podcast or whatever it is. Yeah. Yeah, not really a podcast, but yeah, news show.
It's a show. Yeah, because this is not a podcast, right?
Yep.
It's a show.
I just don't want to be a podcaster, that's all.
Yeah. No, you could be a news personality extraordinaire or something.
Yeah. Just me being a snob.
We're gonna come up, there's gonna be a new type of thing that we're doing here, and there'll be a new name for it, and then we'll go down in history as being the ones that started that. Sam, one of the things I liked at the LabVIEW Consultant Summit is the tagline. It was engage, learn, share, or maybe it was learn, engage, share. Did you want to say anything about that?
I'm guessing you probably came up with that, but I like the idea of, I mean, if I read my cup here, it says leaders are learners, and what is learned is only learned when it is fully shared. So,
ooh, say that again so everybody has it.
Says leaders are learners, and what is learned is only fully learned when shared. So to me, like,
that's
sharing my opinions. Like I view the blog and the podcast as I try to share my opinions, but often it gets shaped by the people I talk to. So on the podcast, sometimes people push back and like, and it kind of changes the way I think about things. So, and just the act too for the blogging of like writing stuff down and putting it in writing forces you to be very specific and defend your ideas. And sometimes I realize that some of my ideas aren't very defensible and I have to change them. So sometimes
my ideas have always been defensible. I'm just saying. One other quick thing, Sam, because I know everybody here is asking the question, and we did talk about it in the green room before the show, and that is you have the amazing LabVIEW Experiment podcast. In fact, I was listening to part of the podcast yesterday with regards to the gentleman. You're going to have to refresh his name for me. I think it's Dave. I don't remember his last name. But the guy who's going to be speaking on leadership and reluctant leaders at GDevCon NA, I'm super excited, and he has a fascinating story. So share a little bit about what's the difference really between the LabVIEW experiment and what we're doing here.
Yeah, the guy you're talking about is David Neal, and I highly recommend everybody goes to talk about it. It is a leadership talk for the reluctant leader. So basically, the premise is anybody can be a leader. If you turn around and somebody's following you, you're a leader, whether you like it or not. So that is the ultimate litmus test, right? You can declare yourself a leader, but unless somebody's actually following you, it doesn't really happen. The podcast is more about me exploring some of my ideas around software development and having more long form interviews. And one of the goals is to bring in all the leaders in the LabVIEW community, but also bring in people outside the LabVIEW community to kind of cross-pollinate some of those ideas. I feel like in the LabVIEW community, we're kind of behind the general software engineering curve because, we're not software engineers to start with. We're physicists, engineers, scientists, etc. So I think it's good to learn from those things because otherwise we keep reinventing the wheel and solving problems that they've already solved. So that is the LabVIEW experiment in a nutshell. And I would be remiss if I did not mention Taylor because she is awesome. She does
Oh,
some
yeah,
camping
please
from
talk
it,
about
and she
Taylor
like
because she's
organizes
here even
everything.
if she's
And
not here. Sorry,
yeah,
I was
yeah.
talking
No,
over you.
no, yeah, but Taylor is awesome. If you hang around the LabVIEW community, you'll probably meet her because she helps out with GDevCon and some other stuff as well. So yeah, the coolest
All
person
right.
in the LabVIEW community who is not a LabVIEW programmer by far.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, she's awesome. So thank you, Taylor, for being here, even if you're not necessarily on camera. We will get you on camera on a future show. Um,
Can I can
so
I can I say something nice about Nancy? Because you're gonna miss we get to
Yeah,
say
yeah, we haven't introduced
I
Nancy.
forgot to introduce myself.
yeah. Well, I'll do one bit, then you can introduce yourself. So
Okay.
without Nancy, there wouldn't have been any of this. So Nancy and Fabiola and there'll be other people involved, but for my interface was the start of the CLA summits, and the start of the CLA summits, nobody in the LabVIEW community would share code. Nobody would talk to each other. Nobody in the business community would talk to each other, and certainly wouldn't share processes. And we were in this just lots and lots of tiny little rooms, and the change into a collaborative, friendly community came at the start with the CLA summits, in my opinion. And it was a marked change. It was very, very different, and I think it makes us what we are now. We're all built on that. So there you are. There's my nice thing about you. Don't expect. I'm English. Don't expect anything nice ever again.
Okay, I know. That was it. I'm gonna capture that. I'm gonna take a picture of it, and I'm gonna dip it in some brass and stick it up on the wall because it will not happen again. So yeah, what was great about the CLA summit is it was very collaborative as well. It was, wait a minute, we some of us do talk a little bit at NI week. We need to get together more frequently. It was like, let's take what sometimes happens on the discussion forums and let's bring it into into an actual room. So definitely on a future this month in LabVIEW broadcast, how do I what's the acronym there? TMiLV. How do I pronounce TMiLV?
TMiLV.
TMiLV. Okay. So in the
TMiLV.
future TMiLV show broadcast, we'll talk about the CLA summit, whether or not we want to bring it back, how that might be different from GDevCon. We're not going to go down that rabbit trail today. Now, I am going to mention, and Steve mentioned in the green room as we were prepping, this show is about the news. No commentary. Yeah, we're having commentary here. You can't have just the news with Steve Watts, Sam Taggart, and Nancy Henson. It's just not going to happen that way. Now, point of business, Steve, I have a favor to ask because there's something I cannot see on my screen. How many minutes are we into our broadcast so that I keep us on time?
I think we're
No
about
idea.
30 minutes in, 12, 13 minutes.
Yeah, about 13 minutes, I reckon.
Yeah. Yep.
About 13. Okay, awesome. Great. So, the way we're gonna do this show is we do have some specific news we're gonna want to talk about, both from NI and the community. This week, or rather this month, we're going to talk about events because we're at the beginning of event season. Probably talk about our favorite tools, and then we'll have some free-form time as well. One more thing before we jump into this, there's 3 of us here. There are many more conspirators out there, and we're going to want to invite you guys to join us, and maybe we'll have a panel. Maybe we invite 1 or 2, who knows? So reach out to Mr. Watts, the professor of pragmatism. Steve, how do they reach you with their ideas?
Email. We do have a Discord on the LabVIEW Discord, which everyone should join. There is a This Month in LabVIEW channel, so go on
Perfect.
that, and that's probably the best way. But tap me up on LinkedIn, emails. I respond to everything.
Excellent.
Generally.
Excellent. And so great. So the best place definitely is the TMiLV. I said that fast on Discord. All right, let's roll into the news. And we're going to start with some news from NI. And I'm going to kick this off just a little bit because I worked at NI through December 15th, and I have since been in the wonderful world of not quite employed and running around in a camper van all over Texas. So at NI, they have different business units. So you have the semiconductor, aerospace defense, transportation, and portfolio. So you have 4 business units, And then software was kind of spread around there a little bit. And it's super exciting to have a global software business unit. It's led by Rudy. And our bestie, Eli Carey, is back in the seat doing his LabVIEW gig again. We're super excited. Eli, we will have you on a future show, so get ready, buckle up. But it's great because now software can then drive more things, at least that's my impression, as opposed to having the other business units drive what software does. Steve, looks like you were nodding your head. Do you have a comment on that?
I think out of everything recently, that was one of the bigger news parts for me, because I'm interested in things structural, and the messaging around LabVIEW was difficult when it was not part of any business group, because nobody had responsibility for it. So the people who were enthusiasts were doing it, but it was just difficult, and having a business unit associated with it, I think, is a massively good move, in my opinion. So all I've said opinion, but I think that's the impact to me is that there is a place now. There's a proper pigeonhole for it.
Yeah, there's a head on the chopping block. There is a desk where the buck stops, as opposed to the buck getting passed around from person to person. So I agree wholeheartedly. Sam, comments on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, before you probably had a lot of people arguing over budget. And I think that's part of the reason why things like the CLA Summit and some of those things went away, because there was nobody driving it and willing to put the money in. So I do think Eli is a great choice. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I just interviewed him yesterday for the LabVIEW experiment. So that'll probably come out in the next month or so, maybe a month and a half. So keep a lookout for that.
Awesome. So we're all excited. Eli, we're great that you're driving this interesting crew of conspirators and others. And we're really, really looking forward to continuing to collaborate with you and NI. Now, along those lines, there is Flex. We're going to talk about a product release from NI. And if you don't know about FlexLogger, it's really pretty cool. It is, it's a data logging software. And how many of us in the LabVIEW world have actually built our own data logger, and then you have to maintain it? And so it was about a year and a half ago when I was in the professional services organization, and we were working with a customer, and they had a bunch of different test cells, and they were testing engines of various types. And it was fantastic because they were leveraging FlexLogger, and then they could customize some things in LabVIEW. So it really enabled them to get started a lot more quickly, and then they could do their customizations in LabVIEW. So our friend Tim Robinson mentioned FlexLogger Lite, and I'm going to let Sam, why don't, did you want to opine on this one? Your eyes just got big.
Oh, no, I mean, honestly, I have never really used FlexLogger. I may have seen a demo a while ago. Yeah. I'm just thinking, though, because there's probably a project that I worked on recently that might have benefited from that. So, yeah, I think it's cool that they're having a free version. So that's good.
That's the
The free
release.
version is great.
Yeah, the preview, the Lite, FlexLogger Lite, I think it is. And the reason it's interesting to me is because there's a LabVIEW plugin SDK that you can download to make your own plugins, and that's
And that's
useful thing.
my friends who were doing the engine testing and the test cells. That's exactly what they were able to do, because then they were able to control some of the sequencing of various things that turn on and off, and do their logging. And so it was a great tool for them. So next up, so this is the one I'm super excited about. We're going to talk about the LabVIEW 2024 Q1 release. Now, I'm an expert on this release. As I mentioned, I became joyfully unemployed in mid-December, hung out with my family over Christmas, did stuff, got my house on the market. Now I'm in a camper van running around Texas. So my experience with LabVIEW 2024 Q1 is really just the installation process, because I hadn't installed LabVIEW in ages, and there were way too many options. Now Steve and Sam are going to talk about what they love about this this release, but I think it would be fantastic if I'm just going to install LabVIEW. Maybe I'm going to use just some instruments in the CTI. Then great, install everything I need just for visa calls. And I want some high-level bundle, so I just press a couple buttons, and then it installs everything I need instead of pop-up after pop-up after pop-up after pop-up where I have to decide what I need. And even as someone who's been in this world for like 3 decades, I still don't know for sure what I need. I need somebody else to tell me that. So I'm excited about what you'll hear from Sam and Steve, and then and I'll be diving into coding more. But that was my not quite so positive experience on the installation that I think most people will agree with.
So for me, I've been using it solely on Linux. And so I've just completed a huge emulator system of 40 controllers, all running OpenSUSE, all running LabVIEW Q1, 24Q1. And the reason I'm excited is because it supports OpenSUSE Leap 15.5, which is the latest release. So and
elaborate on that a little bit for those that aren't familiar with the terminology.
I don't know. It's just the latest version. Leap is it's not the rolling update. So what in Linux you can have long-term support, i.e. doesn't pull in updates very often. You can have continuous updates, and you get choices in the Linux world. It's you also get an operating system that doesn't give you adverts, which is wonderful, I have to say. But it's very nice, and you can install it all without the command line. I discovered it took me a few goes to discover it, but you don't need the command line. Through OpenSUSE, you can just do it all through Yast and download it and run it, and it's all comes in. It's wonderful. So yeah, I've been very happy with it. So I mean, that's my tale of the latest version, and it's been relatively stable. I mean, I'm using it on Linux, which is less developed, I think, than Windows. So I wouldn't say it was 100% stable. Not Linux is less developed than Windows. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
LabVIEW on Linux is less developed than LabVIEW.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah, I view Linux as the evolution from Windows, but yeah, more evolved. Yeah, as somebody who uses Linux regularly daily and detests Windows, I'm super excited for that. I still end up doing a lot of work on Windows, doing it in virtual machines. So one of the new features in 2024 Q1 is this backwards compatibility thing, which I think has a lot of good use cases. Open source stuff, for example, right? I don't have to install LabVIEW 2017. I can edit the code in 2024 and it'll save it back in 2017 and not upgrade it for me. So that's nice. For project work, I'm not entirely sure how good that is because, I end up creating new virtual machines anyway for all the drivers to keep stuff separate. So I'll have to see if my workflow changes to take advantage of that. Steve and I were talking earlier that one of the nice features about that, though, is I can develop refactoring tools using 2024, and I can then load old code and run my refactoring tools. My refactoring tools themselves can take advantage of all the new features of LabVIEW, VIMs and what are the other new features? Sets and maps and interfaces and those things, and some of the editor add-ons and plugins and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of cool. I think that has a lot of use cases. So
I think it's one of those little sleeper things, a bit like when they put the filter on the search bar that was sort of hidden away. It's like it's going to be really, really useful once we get all the use cases in our heads, and the early adopters have taken all the bugs out for me.
Yeah.
So Sam, talk a little bit more about your refactoring tools, and are you selling them?
Right now I'm just kind of building them custom as I need them. I would love to go through, like, if you read the refactoring book by Martin Fowler, there's a whole bunch of refactorings in there, particularly the class-based ones that I think refactoring class-based code in LabVIEW is hard. So making that easier, I think, is good because I feel like it forces you to get the design right up front for the classes because it's so hard to change later. So making it easier to change, I think, is a good thing. I did want to comment on something, though. You mentioned like the installer and the size, and I know, and I was concerned about that. I wonder, like, could you do something where like install stuff on demand, kind of like lazy loading, right? Like load stuff when you need it. Well, what if like Visa doesn't come with LabVIEW, but as soon as I drop a Visa note on the block diagram, it says, hey, you don't have this installed. Do you want to go install it? And then I click a button and it installs it. I think that would be a very
Oh, I love
interesting
that.
way of getting just what you need. I don't know what the practical implications of that are, but that would be really nice. And then you don't have to choose any of that stuff up front at all. You just like, hey, I'm using this. Can you install it now? So there's an idea for
I love
NI.
that.
I
Yeah,
mean,
excellent.
we
Yeah,
proposed
Eli, are you listening?
we proposed something like that back in 2014, where you would just pull things onto the pallet on demand as you needed them. I think it's possible. I think it's very possible. Needs a different
So,
change in mindset, but it's possible.
and I think and I just they want to hear. I think at some point they're going to be ready to, all right, give us all your ideas again, because there was that, at some point in time, I don't know exactly when it was, 2014, 15, 16, 17, somewhere around there. We all felt like, and I was became a little bit disengaged from the community, and it was a thing. And now, when we look at how NI's rolled out their marketing campaigns at the beginning of the year, leading with LabVIEW and then LabVIEW Plus, something dramatic has changed at NI, and I'm very thankful. I saw it happening before I left, and I've seen it grow even more fully after. I'm no longer at NI, and so I'm really excited about the future and seeing some of these ideas that we had, even a decade ago, come back to fruition. Sam, before we go to the next segment, I want to come back. You mentioned Martin Fowler, and for anybody who doesn't know Sam reads more than anybody I know. I don't know how you read so many books and so fast, and you have 2 kids, and you do rock climbing and all these other things, but you're a machine at getting out there and learning from others. So for those that don't know who Martin Fowler is, I know the name, and I can't remember the rest of the books he wrote, but as soon as you mention them, I'll say, yeah, I remember that. I've read a couple of them. Speak to that a little bit.
ThoughtWorks guy, I think, and he wrote UML Distilled was another one.
That's it.
You're trying to figure out
yeah.
UML. That's a practical one. And he's written a bunch of others like Patterns of Enterprise Architecture. And there's a bunch of other ones that I haven't read, but he has a blog and he is incredibly brilliant and lots of experience and lots of good ideas. So you can't go wrong if you follow his advice in general.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So who's our secretary here who's taking notes? Because I'm trying to keep us on time, so I'm not writing anything down, because right now I don't have a pen, and all I've got is a
Don't
cup
worry
of
about it.
coffee.
I'll take a note.
And I got this guy, this little girl over here. Sadie's my co-pilot. Want to make sure everybody got a chance to see her. Oh, don't tear apart my laptop. One topic we might want to come back to if you're taking notes. Let's make sure we do a TMiLV and have a good conversation on classes. And that could actually take hours and hours. But I think coming back to the class topic would be absolutely invaluable. I'm of the belief that we should be encouraging people to use classes, maybe classes that have been designed by other people, but the key thing, I think, from a philosophical standpoint, no opinion here, this is fact, this is the news, that we should not be afraid of classes. I think sometimes people in our LabVIEW community, we're like, oh my gosh, classes, those, Sam said those can be difficult. We don't want to use them, I digress.
Comments. There are 2 things that I think we should teach earlier than we do that could probably make it into core 1 and core 2. And one is classes, and maybe not necessarily how to design them, but just to use them so people aren't afraid of them. And I think we should introduce very basic unit testing. Just the idea that you can write code to test your code. Even if you don't get like way deep into it, like, hey, I've got this piece of code. How do I make sure that I handled all the edge cases and it does what I think it does? Sure, you can go to the front panel and put in numbers and press the button, and that works. But like making it repeatable by writing a unit test is like, it will move you light years ahead, I think.
So I'll quickly be a counter to that, because I don't use many classes and I don't use unit testing. So
yeah. Well,
and I do very complex software and manage.
Yeah.
So
oh, of course. And Steve, that's why we love you. That's why we're a great trio here of differing opinions. So but what's different, I would say, is Steve, you write complex code, you understand classes, and you're choosing to design your code in a way where you don't use as many classes. And that's different from being hesitant to use them. You're going into this with intentionality and knowledge. So anyhow, so I'm supposed to keep us on track, and we're kind of on a little bit of a rabbit trail here.
Back on track.
All right, back on track. All right, we're gonna and I mentioned this earlier. So we're gonna talk a little bit, a couple more things that we've heard from NI that I'm super excited about. First of all, we mentioned our friend Eli Carey. So those of you who have not been in the community very long, Eli was a LabVIEW product manager for, I don't know, 7 to 10 years. Kind of like Sam, boundless energy, and Eli really spearheaded using LabVIEW for large complex applications and trying to improve LabVIEW so it coheres better with source code control tools, things like that. And because of that, it's interesting, and I'll have a video dropping at some point in time here soon. A lot of our spaceflight companies, most of them, they use LabVIEW, and they're doing complex stuff, and they're doing a great job because LabVIEW allows someone who is a good LabVIEW architect to be even that much more productive than somebody else. So Eli is the NI director of NI software community. So it's community, but he's also driving product initiatives and more investment into LabVIEW. And so we really welcome. Eli has been at NI indefinitely. He was in LabVIEW, and then he has a passion for electric vehicles. So he spent a lot of time in the NI's transportation business unit, which is fantastic because he learned about a lot of other different software tools out there. And he's got a very sharp technical mind. And so we're really excited that Eli is back in the saddle as the director. So we have 2 more people here. I don't want to hog the time, but we've got Carla Grew, who is going to be spearheading some things around academia. We've seen some really exciting options for students getting their hands on LabVIEW. And then Mallory Martin, who those of you who've been to the CLA summits and know customer education, she is a fixture in that organization. And she is now, instead of following other leaders, she is now leading education services. So we're super excited about that. Steve and Sam, do either of you guys know Carla or Mallory, and have some additional comments there?
I know Mallory. I don't know Carla. I'm guessing she's the boss of bosses, as it were, of the academic group, because she's portfolio business line director rather than academia, which academia is a part of, isn't it?
Yeah, let me clarify that a little bit. If so at NI, you've got basically, so you got the software business unit, then you have semiconductor, aerospace defense, and transportation. Everything else is in portfolio. And so Carla and Aditi, they are both general managers of that business unit. And Carla has, I think Aditi has production test and something else. Carla has several things. One of them is inclusive of, I think, design validation test. And then, so instead of being segmented into industries, they're segmenting into functions. At least that's the way it was when I departed. And then, but she also has research and she has academic. And Carla is a longtime NIer. It's like NI is getting the band back together to a certain degree, and she really understands our customers well. She's sharp, she moves fast, and so figuring out this academia challenge where NI divested from academia, she's really spearheading figuring that out, as well as some of her other things that she's responsible for.
So we were in a meeting. I don't know. This won't be NDA. I'll say nice things and keep it general and see. It was an NDA covered meeting where there were people from the academic team on there. And if I was actually making notes at that time, I would have had their names and everything. But they were senior. And in that meeting, they were making very positive statements along the lines of, why would we get in the way of students wanting to learn LabVIEW? That was the take, and I really liked that. I liked the language of it, the simplicity of the language of it. It's, let's not worry about all the licenses and stuff like that. What is stopping people using LabVIEW? And I thought that was excellent. I thought that was a marked change in the whole attitude of the academic side of it, which has been badly neglected, and I think that's caused problems, shall we say, and will cause problems. It's going to be a little while to be solved, I think, but I was very encouraged. It was an encouraging meeting, that one. So.
Yeah, I'm super encouraged as well, and we'll need to put Carla down on our list of invitees. We'll want to get Carla out. I was at the I'm not going to jump ahead to our event section here yet, but I'm going to make a quick comment that I was at GDevCon ANZ and down in Australia. It was fantastic, and there is so much energy down there, down under, within their various universities. And I think once all this information, this NDA information is public, because I lose track of what's public, what's not. So Steve, I like how you were very careful in your language. But once everything's publicly out there, I think we're going to see a lot of enthusiasm, and it's going to parlay into CTI, which is also part of our future conversation. So I'm going to keep us on track. Anything else with regards to our friend Mallory that we have known for decades?
She's
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah, I was gonna say something similar. Yeah, I remember her. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but she was very involved in the CLA summits and planning
Yes,
that.
very much.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did
Yeah,
a great job with that, and she was always very enthusiastic and bubbly, and yeah.
Yeah, Mallory is delightful. I haven't spent much time with her in the last couple of years, just my various roles and her roles. So I'm super excited to spend more time with her. Hey, Mallory, I'm going to be in Austin next week. I'm going to come track you down. But by the time you see this, we will have already had coffee or wine or something like that. So yeah, so we're really excited about everything at NI, and we're also super excited about our community. I was I was floored and honored when I was asked to be on the board of G Central. So G Central, for those of you that are not familiar with it, it is a nonprofit that was created probably 7 or 8 years ago. And during that timing of G Central being stood up as a nonprofit, some of the original vision of Chris Cellino and I think Eli back in the day and several others was to have kind of a single repository where we could go get code. And it's kind of like, I think it's called PyPy or something like that, where people go for Python code. And that was a great start. And then we've had several people or other options in the community for finding code. Of course, you know, GitHub is a place now, and JKI brought out their VIP MIO, which we'll talk about. And so what's great at G Central is we're kind of rethinking a little bit, you know, the mission statement, and really it's kind of like, here's a hub. If you don't know where to go to gcentral.org, and then we're going to point you to, oh, here's where you can go get code. Here's where you can go learn LabVIEW. And you can learn from NI, you can learn from Tom McQuillan, and here's all these various places. Oh, and the CTI too. So I'm really excited about G Central, and there's a new website up. In fact, we're going to have those guys on the show too at some point. That is driven in an interesting manner, where a lot of it the site kind of gets automatically generated. I can't remember all the details. You'd have to talk to Q about that, so we'll get Q on here. But one of the other things that G Central is sponsoring right now is they're bringing back badges. And so badges were something that NI put together and a ways ago, and hopefully that NI's badges will come back. But what G Central is doing is bringing out community badges, so that if you're a presenter at GDevCon, the original GDevCon and GDevCon 5 in Stuttgart in September, or GDevCon NA, maybe you're a participant of the Summer of LabVIEW, whatever it is you're doing from a community perspective, then where they're creating badges. And so I'm really excited about that, because it gives us a chance to recognize and honor people in the community. And also, if you're new and you're in an event or you're looking at something online and you see somebody has a couple badges, then you're like, oh, that person's an expert on something. It's an opportunity for us to kind of expand our tribal knowledge of who the current experts are and up and coming experts in various areas. So what I think you'll also see with G Central is a focus on other projects where we can help really help the community. And so I would say, if you look at, without looking at the mission statement that I helped to write like a month and a half ago, so I've already forgotten it, I would say G Central it's a hub to figure out where to go to get information. And it's also the board of directors is working very closely with the community to identify what are the areas that we can invest as G Central board members, whether it's badges or a new website or whatever it is, to help knit the community together and drive initiatives. some of the initiatives, yeah, sometimes the initiatives always aren't that successful, and we learn from those, and those are okay, but we're real excited moving forward. And now Steve Watts can say, Nancy, shut up. We're going to move on to the next topic.
Let's go to the next topic. Enough.
Enough. Next topic, CTI. For those of you that are not familiar with CTI, it's a community training initiative. This is the thing I am the absolute most excited about, because in my giving back years, I want to see a thriving LabVIEW, and I want to be able to go to underserved communities. My favorite, Dive Island in Honduras, or when I'm living in Nashville, kids that are in juvenile, the court system. And I want to find places where I can work with others so that we can educate kids in STEM with LabVIEW. And so that is one of the amazing things that we're going to be able to do with the CTI initiative. So, Mr. Watts,
I'm rummaging around. So essentially, we've created a downloadable virtual machine, which has got Linux and LabVIEW and all the drivers installed. You just have to register LabVIEW.
Real quick, I'm going to interrupt real quickly. When they're downloading to a PC, not to what you have in your hand, correct?
Yeah, no, that's going into VirtualBox or VMware or KVM. I've just found out today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sam, for testing that. So it's a standard virtual, open virtual standard. So you download it. We've got a new version of it, which is 4.8 gigs now, which is incredible. That's LabVIEW 2024. That's all the drivers and an operating system. 4.8 gigs.
Can you even install Windows on a 4.8 gig?
Yeah. So that's Ubuntu based. It works very nicely. Very, very nicely. You can thank Georgios Savaloutis. I won't murder his name. I've been practicing.
I don't even try. It's George T for me. Yeah, I can't do great names.
He's done fantastic work. He's also the guy who came up with our logo, which I think the Heart LabVIEW logo is perfect for the community.
Fantastic.
It's just a wonderful logo. And what we then have is a Pico here, a Raspberry Pi Pico, which is about $5. And we put a Visa overlay on it, which allows us to program Visa, which is an industry standard. Your oscilloscope will work the same, and do a load of exercises so we can switch lights on and press buttons and receive signals. Derek Bomarito is the star here. So he's writing C. But he's building out and he's rewriting this now. So what we're trying to get is communications, because these little kiddies have got communication ports as well. So we're going to try and get Visa communications on these, and then we can do some really funky stuff, because these have got I2C and things like that, so you can talk to chips, and that will be cool. I'm not going to promise that's work. That's our plan. So we got a new version of that. We got a new VM coming. All the materials are open source and on a GitHub web page, which you can find at GCentral. And that you can fork the courses. So we get the original English course is getting done in Spanish. I think I've just noticed a French. Olivier, I think he's forked it. So I'm hoping there's a French one coming. There's talks of it being used in South America as well. So Portuguese, Brazilian. So I'm very excited. I think it's nice, and I think also there's some lessons for NI to learn here. There's about open sourcing materials, and also the packaging. The packaging of something. I mean, if they had a catalog, a repository of these things we could download with different technologies on them, it'd be really useful, I think. I like the box and the throwawayness of a virtual machine. I like, just to install it, test something, get rid of it. 4.8 gigs sounds like quite a long download. Even in the farthest reaches of India, it's only about a 12-minute download. So there's a good website which talks about download speeds in different countries. So we've gone down from 8 gig to 4.8. So again, we're constantly working on trying to make it easy to deliver.
That's small enough you could even put it on a 8 gig flash drive.
Yeah.
USB-C flash drive, and then one person downloads it and then pass it around.
Yeah, and it doesn't take long to install. like that into VirtualBox. You know, you're looking at probably about 2 minutes the whole thing. Then all you have to do is community edition, and you just have to register it, and away you go.
One of the things, and I'm going to take credit for this, but our tagline is, and I am appropriately taking credit, anyone can learn LabVIEW anywhere. And this focus on Linux, you know, those of us in the US, we're kind of living this, you know, Microsoft centric world, but the rest of the world does not have necessarily the funds to be able to, or the accessibility to get Windows. And so this is on Linux for a very specific reason, because that is free. It is the community edition of LabVIEW for Linux. That is free as well. And it runs about $30 to get your Raspberry Pi with the Pico board. So yeah, laptops these days are pretty easy to find. So it is now feasible for me to go down to my favorite little place in Honduras and get the code and get these students up and running and understanding and learning engineering at almost no cost whatsoever. But here's the other really fun thing, and I mentioned this earlier. This is the same software stack that SpaceX is using in several of their launch control solutions. So just in case somebody's worried about me spewing NDA stuff, I'm not. Go get on LinkedIn, look up Jack Dunaway, and you'll see that, you know, he's looking for LabVIEW programmers at SpaceX. How cool would that be? To get more people and more kids and even adults involved in being able to really do good engineering with LabVIEW. So I'm hoping at some point, Steve, to do a little bit of a fork that's going to be the Windows version, and I think that CTI should form the backbone of LabVIEW hands-on that we can start releasing. You know, Sam, I'm going to drag you into doing a LabVIEW hands-on roadshow in about 5 or 6 cities here in the US at some point when we have since we have copious free time at some point.
Do I get to come to Honduras too?
Yes, absolutely.
Job
yeah.
Vamos.
Yeah.
I'm doing something wrong here.
All right. Let's see. Let's see, I'm gonna do a little time check here. I think we got about 12 to 13 more minutes. Real quickly to somebody, and I gotta mention Derek Bomarito. He is the bomb. He is an amazing engineer. He was at Halliburton, and then he was at NI, and now he's at Blue Origin. Derek, thank you so much for all the hard work that you do, both in your day job and in this job. Summer of LabVIEW. Quick comments?
Coming soon. There is a website. Go to summitoflavview.com. There is that is going to get updated soon. Hopefully,
awesome.
After Derek has successfully done my Raspberry Pi Pico stuff. but he's got things going on which are very interesting. It's going to be an interesting challenge or an interesting set of challenges. So it's worth just going to summitoflavview.com. We'll put links in the show notes below the video for all the things we talk about.
Excellent. And I also want to do a shout out to Darren Nattinger, who, by the way, if you don't know Darren Nattinger, go look up Darren Nattinger. He has so many amazing presentations, and I'm gonna go on a quick rabbit trail. I promise I'll bring myself back in. If you're looking for a presenter at a user group, Darren probably has about 10 or 11 amazing sessions that apply to almost all levels of LabVIEW. Reach out to him and get him scheduled to remotely present at your user group meeting. He'll let you know when he's overbooked, but in the meantime, he is a fantastic presenter. One of his claims to fame is the world's fastest LabVIEW programmer, and he retired. I think he's coming back, maybe. I don't know. And there's no one at NI that loves LabVIEW more than Darren Nattinger, not even Eli. So, Darren, thank you for your efforts here with Summer of LabVIEW. And I think we're going to roll into our event news.
Okay. So, quick one for GLA Summit. What a great event. All the videos are out. That's a bit last month, but was it last month? Yeah.
So I'm going to mention, yeah, for those that are not familiar with the GLA Summit, I'll say this quickly. We used to have Certified LabVIEW Architect Summit. It was in person. It was 2 to 3 days. NI presented, the community presented. You had to be an architect to actually attend. Then in the midst of NI changes, pandemics, everything else, CLA Summit went away for a while. We want to bring it back. and the community, the amazing community, came up with the Graphical LabVIEW Architect Summit. Anybody can attend. It's online and it's 24 hours. So it's truly global. And Steve, I am so sorry. I was not able to get up at 4 a.m. in the morning, my time, to see your presentation on the CTI. I tried, but GLA Summit typically is going to be in March. And so it really was the kickoff to our event season. Next up.
NI Connect. So there's two things here that are interesting to me, and anyone else can chip in. So there's a Developer Essentials track, of which there is an agenda available. So let me just load that. Hold on. The other thing that's interesting to me, if you're a partner or a consultant, something I've been asking for a long time is getting partners in front of sales guys at NI. And they're doing a share your skills and expertise sessions at NI Connect. And as if you're a consultant, I would say that's probably one of the things that you're going to get value from. I have FOMO because I'm not coming over because I'm very poor. But I think that would be one of those value add things if you were going to say, I'm coming over and I'm going to put myself in front of a person, because it's all very well on the partner side having all these automated systems. People talk to people and do business with people. So you need to find these people and you need to talk to them and you need to emphasize why they should always use you. And that's my business talk. But I think that's a really good thing and should be encouraged.
And that is really, really important, because I've had conversations with partners like, well, why should I really come to NI Connect? Well, that's your reason to come to NI Connect. So Steve, I had horrible FOMO because I missed 1G DEF CON, and that was number 3 in Amsterdam. And so now you can have FOMO over NI Connect.
Yeah, I've got a lot. Very upsetting.
Sam?
Well, yeah, I haven't given a lot of thought to NI Connect because originally I was not going, but now it turns out I am going to be able to go. So it'll be exciting. I've also very much will say everything Steve said about connecting partners with sellers. That was part of my feedback. Part of my feedback also was to connect partners with directly with attendees. So I think they might be doing something about that too, because I had the Ask a Genius bar or whatever that was basically we'll connect you with an NI genius, and I had suggested they do something where they connect you with a partner, and I think they're going to do something about that. Don't quote me on that, but I saw some emails about that. So yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Excellent.
So I think me and Derek are presenting. Derek on the CTI. I don't know how that's going to happen.
Doing it remotely.
I can be your proxy because I love CTI, and I'll be your proxy. Yeah.
I might come along remotely if they manage to set it up.
York presented remotely because he was part of a panel I was at the last NI Connect. So it's definitely possible.
Yeah, there's a Linux group meeting, which I would like to have gone to. There's all sorts.
Yeah. If you present remotely, they put you on the giant screen, Steve. Like there'll be Derek standing in front like tiny, and he'll be like giant.
I mean, I've got mixed feelings. I'll be completely open about the developer content now at NI Connect, because I feel sometimes you have to differentiate the different events, and I thought NI Connect would actually make quite a good business connection event rather than a good LabVIEW developer event. But
you bring up a good point, and I want to follow up on that because I think that is really important. Back in the day when we had NI Week became a combination of networking. So the salespeople, rightly so, would bring as many individuals from their top accounts, because then they can interface with a lot of R&D, blah, blah, blah. But then it was also a great user conference. My ask, Eli and Emerson, everybody else, let's do NI Connect and let's do NI Create. That would be the developer conference. So the first NI Connect, we really did not have software-centric tracks at all. In fact, there was one session in the first NI Connect that was by a developer for developers, and that was in Stephen Loftus-Mercer presented. It was before he was at SpaceX and joined SpaceX after he'd left NI, and he had a fabulous presentation. The second year of NI Connect, which I think was 2023, yes, we added the Developer Essentials track. Thank you, Brandon Trace, for doing that and keeping it going. So in that track, we actually had the best attendance of any technical track at NI Connect. And we had 2 rooms that were small rooms and we still had the best attendance. And what we did with this track was we wanted to bring the best LabVIEW celebrities, and celebrities in the sense that everybody knows them because they're so darn good. And we had 2 rooms of amazing sessions, and they're running it again. I think Eric Reffett and Eli are running that. And so if you work for a Raytheon, a BAE, or you work for GM or any major company, and you're bringing your engineers, send them to those rooms at least for part of their time, because it is going to be the highest quality, highest value information on really upping your game in the LabVIEW space. So I really want to promote that. And then we got about 5 minutes left, so maybe we talk about some GDevCon.
Yeah, we've got to talk about GDevCons. Sam, you get first because your GDevCon's first.
Yeah, our event is on. We sold a handful of tickets. We got a bunch of sponsors. I would really like to encourage people to register for the workshop. I think it's going to be really good. It's the day before. It's Monday, so plan on coming out an extra day. It's relatively cheap. It's $300 for a full day workshop about leadership for the reluctant leader. And then there's also some talk on Friday after the conference of the DQMH people putting on a free DQMH kind of thing. I don't know what they're going to talk about. I think they were going to do morning for beginning people and then advanced people in the afternoon or something like that. So yeah, I think we got a lot of cool stuff planned. It's going to be basically very similar to last year. So if you enjoyed last year.
It's a lovely warm event. I've only been there once. It's a lovely warm event. It's the last time in Golden as well, potentially.
Yeah, we're moving to a different place next year, which I can't say right now, but you'll find out.
Highly recommend anyone going.
I live in Colorado. At least I still live in Colorado. You cannot beat Golden, Colorado in July. Bring your family. And what I really like about Sam, what you and the team have done is you really refined this. It's smooth. Our venue is the perfect venue. And so I just encourage people. One of the things that I noticed last year at GDevCon NA is we had a lot of new faces and new people in the community that attended. And there was a lot of feedback with regards to GDevCon being the perfect place to bring your team. So if you're a team lead, you're a team manager, if working for L3 Harris or something, prioritize trying to get your team out to, a GDevCon, because you're going to be able to be in the room together, collaborating together. Great opportunity to get your team up to that next level in their LabVIEW skills. So when we look at GDevCon, it was really designed, and Steve, maybe you can add some notes to have some really good challenging content, but also be very accessible for someone who is ramping up on their LabVIEW knowledge.
Yeah, it was never supposed to be a CLA summit. It was always supposed to be an anthology. So a mixture. I mean, one of our most well-received presentations in Europe was Gary Borman's one, where he was talking about reflections in oscilloscope signals, and he just did a load of experiments, essentially showing you what all the different signals. And it sounds very dry, but it was fantastic, utterly. And that's the kind of thing I really want. And I always wanted, we've never got there yet, I've always wanted it to be graphical programming, not LabVIEW programming, because I'd really like to see sort of ladder logic and all sorts of other things being there. Any way of converting diagrams into software would be wonderful. So that's what we're looking for. So we come after.
Because of what you said about Gary at the GDevCon in Australia, New Zealand, and hopefully they're doing it again this year, because I will be there. There was a gentleman, and he had never programmed in, no LabVIEW, no test stand, but his expertise was how you define what your test limits should be. And it was absolutely fascinating. And that's the kind of experience and knowledge that it's like this institutional knowledge that we should know, but maybe we don't know we should.
Yes, I love all that. I really do. So what we're trying to do different for GDevCon in Europe, which unfortunately, because this is going to be out on May the 1st, you've dipped out on early bird tickets and you've dipped out on presenting, because they both go end on the 30th of April. Oops, sorry. But the thing we're aiming to do is have a 3-day event, have presentations until 2 o'clock, and then a free form unconferencey type affair in the afternoon, so we can talk to sponsors, we can talk to exhibitors, they can show us how the hardware works, we can play with the hardware, we can plot, user groups can get together and combine, and people can work on open source stuff, and it's just going to be that time together that we want to spend, because we found that we were rushing. People were enjoying the bits in between the conference as well, so it was actually quite nice to do that. So that's one change. It's in Stuttgart this year. We've got a wonderful venue, extremely expensive venue for anyone who moans about tickets. We're non-profit, so if you moan about ticket prices, just know that it's all going back to you. You're getting it all. We've run the early bird for, like I say, until the end of April, and we're doing quite well on that, which is a bit worrying for me. I'd rather people would pay for the full price ticket. but
I'll you're still taking sponsors, right?
Still taking sponsors.
Okay.
So we've got a headline. I think it's silvers and golds that we're missing at the moment, but we're talking to quite a lot. It's
So count me down as a sponsor. One quick technical detail here. Since we're not exactly live right now, in case those of you have not figured out we're not live, we really don't have a super hard stop at the 1 hour mark. So I'm thinking we'll go over maybe about 15, 20 minutes or whatever works for you guys.
Yep, sounds for me. I'm here. Excellent.
Because once we're done, my little Class B camper van that I rented is parked near in this vineyard. This is coffee. It will be wine in about an hour and a half or so, and then I'll take a nap before I hit the road. So let's talk about, so on the event side, I did want to make a quick comment. Really, for those of you that are not familiar with all of our events, where we are today is NI Connect is the one NI sponsored event where you can go to the programming or developer essentials track, learn a lot about LabVIEW. The distributors are doing a lot of 1-day events, and they're going to be doing hands-on things like that. So if you don't have an NI account manager, go find your distie, work with them to help, get some events going, and we'll do some LabVIEW hands-on. GDevCon was really spearheaded by Steve and his team. Go on the website, you can see the vision and how it got started. It is 100% run by the community as nonprofit organizations. And again, it's nonprofit organizations serving the community. And we're really thankful that NI is doing a lot more from the marketing perspective to drive more attendance at GDevCon. We saw a great improvement in that last year. If you have an idea for an event, go do it. Come talk to us. Since Sam's the architect of adventure, Sam came up with this thing called an unconference. And we held it in December, and we were like, gosh, should we do it in December or not? And we went for it, and it was Sam, it was Michael Myers, and it was Taylor Oxley. They rocked this unconference, and I know we're going to have more. So while we're still on the topic of events, Sam, talk a little bit about the unconference and some of your vision for extending that even more in 2024.
Yeah, so the idea for an on-conference is when you have a conference like GDevCon or something, right? All the itinerary is already pre-planned, and it's whatever that person who decided to present is interested in at that particular point in time. And an on-conference is you, the attendee, get to talk about what you're interested at the particular point in time that the conference happens. So you bring your own ideas, questions, comments, things that you want to talk about. And we have a bunch of open rooms, and there's a whole kind of process we follow at the beginning. But basically, you grab a Post-it note, you decide what your idea is that you want to talk about. And it could be something that you know about. It could be something you want to learn about, right? It could be like, I don't know anything about CI/CD. Can someone come help me? That's a valid topic. Or it could be, I'm the expert on CI/CD. I have this presentation I want to give. Either way works. And you go and you put the Post-it note for your time, and you show up, and hopefully other people show up. And it could be that somebody who is an expert shows up and gives you a bunch of advice. It could be a bunch of people just commiserating on all the problems and issues they have, and maybe you solve something there. Just kind of depends. But yeah, so the idea is that instead of sitting there and listening to all the things that other people want to talk about that maybe don't address your problem, you get to address your problem directly. So that's kind of the selling point.
I mean, I did a session on happiness just to show you how random it was.
And it was actually a very good session. I sat in on part of it. And the
Oh,
other thing
brilliant.
is you can wander around. So if you sit in on a session and like, hey, I thought this would be applicable to me, it's not. You walk over to another one, and it's really good. So yeah, I like it.
It was really fun because since we did it online, and it was great because it was you could kind of be a sponsor and pay a little more, but you know, even if you were a student, you could still get in for $40, and it was immensely valuable. And I love the tool chain you guys picked out because it was definitely some retro graphics as we're moving around from room to room, looking like a bunch of Mario Brothers. So and it was great because we were all experimenting, and there were no major technical issues, and you guys just rocked it. So Sam, are you thinking about doing one maybe in person in 2024 or 2025?
I would love to do something in person. So I think there should be like some kind of retreat, and we should all go up in the mountains and rent a ski house, kind of like the Agile Manifesto guys. Come up with the LabVIEW Manifesto or something. I don't know.
Oh, I love that idea. Yeah. Now, the other cool place that we could do, since I will be living in Tennessee, we may find a nice house up in the Tennessee mountains or on a lake or something. But we'll do we will do something. That'd be fantastic. All right. Do we want to talk a little bit real quickly about user groups?
There's a big push from NI back onto trying to reinvigorate user groups, which is much harder than invigorating user groups. I will just do a shout out to Ewan Polanchuk, and he can kill me when he meets me for killing his name as well. He's a Hamblsoft worker in England, and he is just starting one in the north of England called Noblug. So shout out to him. I would say a shout out to anyone else who wants us to shout out. Come back to us. Tell us about your user group, and we'll help with resources and wherever we can, because we've all had experience in setting up user groups. So
yeah, if you want to set one up, NI has a good guidebook or roadmap playbook. It has good playbook for, you know, if you want to set up a user group working with your disty, go ask them for their playbook. If you want to set up a user group, you don't know how, it's it's elijah.carey@ni.com, ELIJAH.KERRY@ni.com, because we were starting to kind of roll user groups out a little bit in 2023, and now there's even more energy and momentum behind it. And so user groups are invaluable.
they are.
All right.
I've run one since 2009, and you know these people are friends now. You know, and we're all
Yeah.
and going back to the co-conspirators, they're all co-conspirators. You know, for the various
Yes.
things. It's a great place to make plans outside of your work life.
Yep. And Sam, you run the Denver user group Alarm, right?
Yeah, no, we have a pretty good group. We actually, there's a group of us that we get together regularly for coffee, so that's also a nice little thing. Yeah, I would just say, yeah, if you're looking for user group stuff, check out the resources NI has, but there's also other resources outside of NI. So the distributors, and there's some other companies that are interested in sponsoring as well. So as far as getting hosting and food and all those things. So yeah.
All right. I am going to make the executive decision that we are going to roll into our free form because we're hitting about the 75-minute mark. And this has been absolutely dynamic conversation. I'm loving this. So as we roll in the free form, this is like talk about, mention whatever it is that is you're thinking. I believe that Steve, you have some things that you might want to share real quickly?
Yeah, what I want is people to talk to us, really. Give us subject matter, give us material. So we haven't had time really to do tools news and things like that, we'd quite like to do that. Obviously, we're going to spend less time in the next one talking about ourselves and stuff, but so that kind of material would be very useful. So be roving reporters, you know. Like I say, there's a Discord, which again I'll link the invites if I'm allowed to. I'm sure I will be. There's a Discord channel that you can go to, LabVIEW generic one, and we've got a channel there. Sorry, a server, and we got a channel there. Go there.
TMiLV. And now, Steve, is this going to be monthly? Because our audience and our attendees and our friends and co-conspirators may want this to be more monthly.
Well, they may do if there's material. I mean, if we can keep it light enough. I mean, what you know, I got a day job, so I it's how much time I can pack in. But I mean, my plan with this, if everyone's okay on there, is I'm just going to upload it. I'm going to fill out the links and upload it. I'm not going to do any editing.
Excellent. Now, but we're going to have a music like intro and outro.
If somebody provides it, I'm certainly not going to.
Okay, I'll go find one. I got a little bit of free time because I am on vacation this week. I am not working at all this week, and this is not work. This is fun. It was also funny too, Sam, when we were in the green room, you were calling it the what was it? The LSS, the LabVIEW feed.
Something like that, yeah. Like it said LSS, yeah.
So other ideas for materials I'd quite like to see. I and Sam's got ideas as well, and I guess you have too as well, Nancy. But I'd like to see people talking about projects that they finish, successful projects, and talking about. So, you know, if you reach out to us, we'll send you an invite to the Zoom meeting. Come in and talk about your project briefly, because this is supposed to be it's supposed to be a fast format thing. But tell us about it. Tell us about your successes and what tools you've used. I mean, I know there's NDAs, but you can be generic. You know, you can talk in generic terms. So I kind of like that. I'd like to talk more about tools. We did have that on our list today, but we just ran out of time. Tips and tricks, things like that. Books. I have a book club.
Yeah, Sam's read all the books, so Sam can lead that one. And the other thing I really like, yes, we want, if you've done a project, you're super excited about it, yeah, come on the show and take some time. I always like to learn from what were the roadblocks that you had to remove. And so it's great to talk about the success, but it's also helpful for us to, all of us, to learn from each other on what were the challenges that we had to stumble through.
It's always firewalls with me. Always comes back to firewalls.
Yep.
The bit I'm interested in, it may not fit into this. I quite like to do hardware reviews, so that may be intermediate sort of stuff that we do. It's probably only applicable to me at the moment because I've got an office full of hardware that's just come in, so I'm having fun with hardware to play. But you know, just and it doesn't have to be NI hardware. You know, any hardware. So.
I think that's fantastic. I'm an electrical engineer, and I don't play with hardware as much. I mean, I do the software side, and the software talks to the hardware, but I think it'd be great. I
think the same can be applied to tools and that. So there's a lot of tools that are coming out on the VI PM feed. And again, a 5-minute video of the tool being used would be quite useful, I would have thought.
Yeah, I think so too. For my free form, originally I was going to complain about the fact that I've been driving through Texas for 7 hours and didn't stop by a single Buc-ee's because there was not a Buc-ee's. But all my Australian friends that went to GDEFCON ANZ, you guys all know about Buc-ee's. So once I leave here, there's a Buc-ee's about 15 minutes down the road. Look it up. If you live in Colorado, what I hear is don't go to the Buc-ee's in Colorado because it is super packed right now because everybody's freaking out about how amazing Buc-ee's is. All right, so something that's not Buc-ee's is I am going to come back to the CTI. I am hoping that I can devote some time to taking the existing manual, making some modifications for those of us that are, you know, on the Microsoft platform, and bringing in maybe working with Test Force and Ron Johnson, my local sales guy, and work through some ways that we can make it easy for them to do some hands-on with the visa calls. Maybe, eventually, we'll be able to, well, the Pico board. Anyhow, I got a question on the Pico board. I'll ask you later, Steve. So I'm super excited about helping bring CTI into greater visibility, both at NI and our distributors and our disties. I would love to be able to pull off a short LabVIEW roadshow, like we did way back in the day, and maybe hit 5 or 6 cities and just try proof of concept where it's like, all right, we're going to be in this building. We'll give you some food, come for free and sign up for a morning session or an afternoon session and get your hands on LabVIEW, and we'll leverage the CTI material to do just that. So that's what I'm really hoping to pull off before the end of the year.
Yeah.
So Sam, I've given you some time to think about your freeform topic.
Yeah, I'm just going to go briefly. We skipped over the tools thing. I just want to mention a few of them real quickly. So Panther dashboard for DQMH. Enrique's added some new features. Go check it out. Tim Robinson did a GLA Summit presentation on, and he showed this quick format thing for formatting format strings for indicators. He has that on VIPM. Owl Unit, they've got code coverage metrics now, which is cool. I didn't know about that before. I think it's been around in there for a while, but I've played with that lately.
Say that again, because that's new to me too.
Owl Unit is a replacement, a newer version of VI Tester. It's not VI Tester, but it's very close and similar. And it's got the can measure code coverage for your tests, which is an interesting thing to play around with.
Can you stick the link for that into the notes so I can?
I will stick a link to it in there.
Yeah, so I'll just cut and paste that into the notes.
And then I noticed OpenG has been going through some improvements. I think they stuck stuff in LV libs now, and they've done some other stuff. So
yeah, Jim Kring has been working very hard on and various others. So I'm very excited about Rolf. I'm going to remove his name. Kelvin Matter.
Yeah.
He's done the update of the gzip library, which is wonderful for me because I do a lot of open document format stuff. So I need his library, and I can't use it currently on the 64-bit stuff. So that's very exciting. I can move over to 64-bit for my document stuff now. So there's a lot going on. So maybe next month we'll have a deeper dive.
Yeah, deeper dive. Yeah, I think that would be fantastic. Like you said, we spent a little time talking about ourselves, and I was sharing stories about you guys in part so that you all kind of know who we are. And then I didn't really introduce myself, but I've been doing LabVIEW. I taught my first LabVIEW class in 1989 when I was a child prodigy at the age of 5. That's my ongoing joke. Anything else before we close out here?
We hit on some personal stuff. So I will just say, I just recently, you mentioned the rock climbing thing earlier. I'm certified now as an official single pitch instructor. So if anybody wants to come out to GDevCon and come out over the weekend early, we can go climbing. So
that's awesome. My son is a monkey and scared me to death back in the day when we would go camping and he'd jump on rocks. So I'm going to send him your way as well.
Yeah,
I would love that.
Happy to take people out. So
I'm very good at finding bars. So if you get into one of these events early and I'm there, come and find a bar with me.
Rock climbing always has a bar. So
yeah, but you can do it without the rock climbing, which is even better. Just bar.
All right. So thank you all for joining us today. And in quick summary, you got NI coming at NI Connect coming up in a couple weeks. I got to get registered and figure out where the heck I'm going to stay. I might just drive down there with yet another Class B van that I'm in right now. GDevCon July, Golden, don't miss it. It's gorgeous. And there may be some rock climbing, and maybe we do some camping or something for anybody that's coming out early or staying late. Just reach out to us. GDevCon Stuttgart in September. I don't know about all the other GDevCons, so I don't want to speak in advance. We'll talk more about that. Reach out to us on the Discord channel this month in LabVIEW. Thank you to my co-conspirators. Let us know if you want to join us. We've got Steve, the professor of pragmatism, and we have Sam, the architect of adventure, and I'm Nancy Henson, your chief of connected conversation. Thank you all.